everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. It is a beautiful, beautiful Thursday, and I hope that you are doing great today. Sometimes I'm just overwhelmed at how awesome God really is. I say that with great vigor because it's true, but because the more that you look, the more that you listen, and the more that you draw closer to Him, and the more you begin to realize what we're talking about in this lesson. What is love? The love of God. It is almost undefinable when we think about the beauty of what is there. Paul does a tremendous job, though, in helping us to recognize, if you will, the love of God. What does that look like? I read to you from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, beginning in verse 4. And it says this: love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It's not jealous. It is not boastful. It is not arrogant. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not irritable. It does not keep a record of wrong. Love finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. That ought to make somebody want to shout. Go back and read that, friends. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. You can read the whole chapter, but that section is verses 4 through 8. We see so many beautiful things here. Love, it says, is patient. That's something we all struggle with. Sitting in traffic or waiting on something to come in the mail. Or love is patient. We struggle with that. Real love, we see, gives birth to something different in us that we're able to say, you know what? God's love is on display with me because He is patient with me, because I fail Him every day. Not intentionally, but my humanistic ways get in the way. My thoughts, my visions, my ideas sometimes get in the way. But God is patient with me in that because God loves me. We see that love is kind. How many of us believe this, that kind or nice words, they calm things down, they settle things down? When I was on the road, one of the things that I learned to master, and I don't say that again arrogantly, but I learned to de-escalate a situation. It didn't matter how bad or awful it was. You had to bring it down in order to be able to work within the confines of that. This tells us, and we understand the love of God, that kindness and kind words, nice words, they bring things down to a level to where now I can listen. Harsh words make things worse. You're an idiot. You're a dummy. You're this. You're that. And I hate you. What communication does that allow for? None. Harsh words make things worse. They shut things down. They stop communication altogether. This passage tells us love is not jealous. It's not angry. It's not selfish. And it's not puffed up. It's not arrogant. Hey, look at me and how great I am. I saw something not too long ago, and this is very applicable. It says, if I have to keep telling you how great I am, I'm not very great. And there are many out there who constantly want to profess their greatness and their, burst of all of a sudden, growth and numbers and they're, lauding all of their accomplishments. But it's all a fraud anyhow, and none of it's real. Anybody can have stuff when you buy it. Arrogance shows no place. It's not there. Love is not selfish. It is not arrogant. Love is forgiving, it tells us, that it doesn't hold grudges. In other words, it lets go and moves on. That's great life advice, friends. It's never about that it was okay. People do us wrong all the time. I could sit here on this video and talk to you for 8 hours about that. You know, the things that have been done wrong to us in life, and people, people screw you over, and people make a mess of things and all this other stuff, and people lie to you and deceive you, and that happens. It doesn't make it right. People make promises they can't keep. You know, people sell you things that they don't have the keys to. That's just true. That happens. But when we experience the love of God in our life, when we understand the value of that and what it does and the beauty and the ability to move on that it brings to us, then we begin to understand, wait a minute, this really can change my life. Love lets me go and move on. It allows me that ability. Love, it tells us, looks for the best in others. I know that can be difficult. Sometimes we feel like we have to look really deep to find it. And sometimes we feel like it's not there. But real love is not shallow. You see, surface level stuff is kind of, there's an old saying, and this is not meant to be critical or cruel to anyone. There's an old saying that says, beauty is only skin deep, but ugly is to the bone. Now, that's been said, obviously, as a critical thing or a kind of a mean-spirited thing to people over the years about a cosmetic look. But if we'll take that in a literal sense, it's true. Beauty, whatever our physical makeup is, and obviously sometimes that's in the eye of the beholder, but ugliness, rottenness, that's deep. That's to a core. Real love is not shallow. Real love is not, I'll tell you what you want to hear as long as I get something in return. I'll tell you what you want to hear as long as I can continue to manipulate you to believe a perpetrated lie and keep stringing you along as long as possible. That's not real. And that's not what God does. God never says to us, I love you this much. No, God loved you enough that he gave his life for you. That's real. We have to be mindful with what we say. We need to be that. We need to be mindful that what we say it with love. Even the things that people don't want to hear. Like the truth. Nobody wants to hear that these days because the truth is difficult to hear. Because the truth sometimes is contrary to what we want to do. But the truth is what changes our life. It sets us free. It doesn't hold us in bondage anymore to something that's not true. It allows us to move forward. That's why Jesus said, you will know the truth and the truth will make you free. Truth will set you free. He's speaking of himself. When we come to understand him and the value that he brings into his life and the love of God, it changes our entire perspective. Sometimes the truth can seem harsh. Sometimes some of the things that I've said on here, sometimes they're kind of difficult to be, it's palatable. They're very difficult to swallow. But if they're true, they're just that. And one who doesn't like that, that's more their problem than it is the messenger. Because if the message is delivered in love, it's like when Jesus said to the Pharisees, you brood of vipers, you hypocrites, what are you doing? That wasn't said in meanness and unkindness. He was the representation of what he was saying was, you know, the hypocrite is one who does one thing and says another, and a brood of vipers, what is that? It's filled with poison. You're telling people something that's not true. You're giving people something that's going to harm them. Paul gives us this lesson that allows us to understand we can share things, even the difficult things, in love, showing that we truly care. We care enough to give you the truth. We care enough to be honest with you. Paul says in this chapter, if I say these things, even though I can speak with the tongues of angels and people, regardless of the source of my words, if I don't have love in those words, it's just noise. It's sounding brass. To read it to you verbatim, it says, if I speak human or angelic tongues, but I do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. In other words, it's just noise. God's love should be found in the harvest. What do I mean? Everything that we're doing, whether it's right here and making it simple, whether it's through my ministry that I have at my church, my radio ministry that I have going on, or wherever you are in your life, anything that you have going on, the community that we serve, the family that we serve, the place of work that we work at, the church that we serve, and wherever, if it is not done, our words, our actions, if it is not done in the love of God and with the love of God, it's meaningless. It's just noise. It has no value. If it's not real, if it's not backed up by the love of God, it is much like counterfeit money. It's printed and it looks on the surface to be one thing, but it don't have anything to back it up. It has no value. Our words, our deeds, our actions, our outreach, it's got to be real. Because Jesus called us to reach others and tell others about him. The Bible, the gospel message, if you will, it is more than a collection of stories about a good guy, a nice guy, a good teacher, whatever. Friends, this is the news that will change your life. And that is the message today. It is the news that will change your life. May you receive this message today with the love of God. What is love? How do we recognize the real love? How do we recognize that it's real? How do we understand it? It is patient. It is kind. It is not arrogant. It is forgiving. It is all of the things that are the characteristics of God. Do you know him today? We'll talk more about that the next time we come back together right here and Making It Simple. God bless you. I hope you have a great rest of the day.